All right. Well, welcome back to this podcast series. We've got a Two for Tuesday, another podcast here. My name is Dave Adamczyk, and today we've got Joey Pickett here, all the way from Kentucky, all the way up into Michigan to join us here in this. So welcome, Joey.
Well, thank you, David.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure having you up here to Michigan to do this. Two for Tuesday. We've got two bits of information on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. And today we thought it's best to sit here and talk about carpet and upholstery and items with the number one instructor that we feel here, one of the longest standing instructors here in America that date back a while. We're going to get into some of your history and some of the accolades that you have. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Joey.
Well, I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, and I'm married and I have several children and been running a business of some sort since I was 16 years old. And
what's the name of your business?
My business in Lexington, Kentucky is Joey's Carpet Care, and then I also have a teaching and consulting business, which is how we work together, which is service consultants.
Great. And so Joey's Carpet Care, is that handling just residential, commercial, or what do you do?
Well, we do residential and commercial, industrial. We do everything from all types of cleaning as well as restoration services.
Got it. Now, the service consultants, when you talk about that, is it just you or are you part of a group of other professionals?
Well, I'm part of a group of professionals, the IICRC, which is the International Certifying Body. Ours is an approved school, and we've been doing that since 1985. And I've had the privilege of training a large group of people, not only people in our industry looking for certification. I've also worked with insurance companies, training agents and adjusters, basically virtually anybody that would be in that arena. Agents and adjusters for real estate. I've worked with attorneys and different people and different types of litigation.
Well, that's incredible. So real quick, and just to recap, so how long have you been in the industry?
Well, we're ending 44 years, getting ready to start on 45.
That's very impressive.
Well, thank you.
So how long have you been teaching, though, as well?
Well, I actually started teaching back when I was about 17 years old for the franchise that I was part of. Started out just working as a technician. Next thing you know, I was doing product testing and development, selling franchises, working with some of the other franchises. And then back in I guess the 80s, I started actually training my competitors. That we were friendly. We've got a great culture in our market, and we all get together. Matter of fact, we get together a couple times a year, go out and have some wings together, and we believe a rising tide raises all ships. And then in 1985, I was asked to consider becoming an IICRC school because I had been doing some classes for some of the industry distributors.
Okay.
And it was very well received. And so I went to Vancouver, British Columbia, got approved to teach carpet and upholstery. And the next thing I know, I'm a technical advisory chair leading us through the 86 with Stainmaster, Master Life, and all that stuff with DuPont, and was able to be a part of helping to write all the cleaning procedures and stuff for that.
Well, that is really impressive. So as we start to look at some of this, you've mentioned several times. Matter of fact, you're even wearing your IICRC shirt here today. I mean, it's a very proud organization.
Yes.
It's something that even here in Michigan that we do. We talk about getting trained in certification with the various different disciplines from water, fire, mold, carpet, textiles, hard surface, and things like that, and then to become journeymans and master restorers. So here in Michigan, I'm a triple master restorer. I believe you've got multiple masters, right?
Right.
So how many designations or masters do you hold?
I actually only hold 2.
Okay.
The reason when I took all the training for the third one, there was no test yet. I actually helped write several of the certifications. And, as our business grew and developed, we moved more into other areas of the country, and we decided to kind of limit our focus a little bit.
So when we talk about the tenure and length in teaching, I look, and we were joking earlier about registration numbers and our certification numbers. I think the IICRC has registered its members. We're into the multiple hundreds of thousands, right?
Correct, yeah.
I think we've got somewhere, I think if the numbers are right, about 50,000 active members.
That sounds correct.
About 6,500 certified firms, of which Absolute Services is a certified firm. And then if we look at it, of triple masters, there's about 160, 170 of us in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think my number is around 232,000.
Wow. Impressive.
What's your number, Joey?
709.
So you're probably in the first year or so?
Yeah, pretty early on.
All righty. Well, that is pretty impressive. And so it is a pleasure having you here, this wealth of knowledge and everything else. But, we talk about going back to this amount of time and legacy, and let's call it a legacy in the industry, because what you've done throughout this time and over these years, you're also not known by just an instructor. You're not known by just Joey's Carpet Care. You're also known by something else in the industry, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
Dr. Stain.
Dr. Stain.
Yes. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it started out one day I was driving and listening to a radio show I hadn't heard before, and it was a call-in show, and they were featuring one of the local car washes. And it was basically an hour infomercial, and I said, oh my goodness, I got to figure out how to do this. This is awesome. So when I called the radio station, they said, well, we're not going to be doing that for a while. The idea of the show is not for it to be a commercial. And I said, well, let me do this. Let me offer to come on and help people and not even mention the name of my company, just give people good, honest advice. And they said, well, you're going to have to talk to the guy that does the show. And I called him up. Come to find out, he was actually one of my customers. And he was the number one DJ in our market at the time. I think he probably still is. And so they asked me to send in my resume. So I thought I was going to be funny, and I sent in about a 3-page, single-spaced list of the different accolades and stuff that I had, trying to be funny. So they called me back, and they said, well, what we don't want to do is have a situation where all the competition is upset that we put you on. So we're going to call around and get some feedback. Well, literally, they called my competitors and asked, who would you recommend if we were going to put somebody on the air? And my competitors actually told them I was probably the one they should call. So the first time I show up, and I'm sitting in the studio kind of like we are today, of course we're on radio instead of the podcast like this, and the guy starts reading my 3-page of accolades. I want to crawl under the desk, because here I was trying to be funny, and he's literally reading them, and he's saying, I want you to understand why we've asked Joey to be on the show. And I did that for many, many years, helped a lot of people. And it actually got to the point where we had so many calls that it would just give out my phone number and my company name, because they would flood the switchboard before we could ever get off the air.
That's really impressive, because you and I have known each other for going on about 7 years now.
That's correct.
And matter of fact, you were my instructor. And so when we talk about like carpet, and it's part of the reason why you're here today, talk about carpet and upholstery.
Okay.
We started to talk about, we're going to talk about some things as we look through, and we have a lot of listeners that are agents, adjusters, homeowners, attorneys, even other colleagues in this industry that listen to this podcast. So when we go through and we talk about all these things, we're going to talk about some carpet here and things like that, but we're going to talk about some of the service lines. So can you talk about or explain the differences as we talk about carpet and upholstery between primary and secondary services?
Something I learned many years ago. A friend of mine brought to me a concept that was being used in another business without going into exactly what they were doing. He was talking about when you determine your cost of doing business, understanding the part of your business that actually pays the overhead and the parts of the business that actually bring additional revenue streams that can make you very profitable. Perfect example is as a carpet and upholstery cleaning firm. When I go out and clean carpets or clean upholstery, we have to generate enough revenue for each production hour to actually carry the overhead for all the downtime, the travel time, the maintenance time, all the different things that have to go on. And there are other services, like most of you are probably familiar with a carpet protector, Scotchgard, Teflon, products like that, that provide a service to the customer, but because the overhead has already been covered, the sell these products also it presents a good profit center for our business. Odor control, different things that we can do to help the customer keep their home cleaner, safer, healthier longer.
Thus the secondary service.
Those would be the secondary.
To help that revenue stream. Got it. So as we start to look at, we've got the primary service, we've got the secondary service, but you keyed in on something there pretty good about what's a little profitable or some of the money makers. Now, we had a conversation over the years, and you've cleaned some very, very high-end pieces of fabric, some high-end rugs, but you've cleaned some very unique carpeted areas that some animals happen to partake on, right? That some very special animals from some very special people in some stables, maybe?
Well, without going into details.
without giving out privacy or whatever, right?
Yeah, let's just say there's a certain
Yeah,
person.
how would you phrase that?
Let's just say an elderly woman who controls a very large company that owns some equine assets. How about that?
Sure.
That actually probably reside in $1 million plus barn.
Yep.
And have some nice expensive Wilton carpet on the floor of those stalls.
For her horse.
Her equine, yes.
Yeah, her
horses.
equine, yes.
And yes, we have cleaned that a couple times over the years and stuff. And it's just interesting sometimes to see some of the situations. Being from the horse capital of the world, we work with a lot of the high-end horse farms. And I mean, you're talking some absolutely gorgeous homes and structures that we're able to go in and maintain.
What would you say the most expensive rug or tapestry you've cleaned?
Well, if you're talking pure monetary value, probably somewhere in $125,000, $150,000.
How nervous did that make you?
Not any.
Not any.
No, because
Just another day in the woods.
well, it's like when we teach a class. If you don't clean anything until you know exactly what you're working on, and then you do pre-testing to make sure it's not going to bleed or shrink or have problems. And if you do have complications, those are the kind of things you discuss with the customer beforehand, and get them involved in how much risk, if any, they're willing to accept. You don't just jump in. And unfortunately, there's a lot of companies in the industry that everything's a cookie cutter cleaning job. They do exactly the same thing. We don't do that. We have multiple methods. Matter of fact, we just put in a new rug plant, and we're getting all kinds of very nice rugs sent to us from people all over. And I'm proud to be working my business with my son, who we even sent out to school to learn to do the repair of rugs and stuff. And it's just gives us another one of those secondary services, whether it's repairing a tear or a fringe or something that helps separate us from other companies.
That's impressive because we were also talking about, prior with the secondary service, a lot of people have a misconception or a lack of understanding of spot and stain warranties. So as we get into this about what they cover and what they're all about, do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Well, sure, that's fine. First of all, a lot of people don't understand the difference between a spot and a stain. And that's probably where I'd like to start.
There you go.
Because we use those two terms interchangeably all the time. Technically, I define a spot as anything that it adds texture or substance to the surface of the fabric, where a stain is something that actually goes in and becomes part of the actual fabric. Now, if it's superficial on the surface, you're much more likely to be able to remove it if the fabric will allow you to, and I'll explain that in a second. Before I do that, I want to tell a story about going into my dry cleaners. Walk into the dry cleaners, and he has a sign that says, "We absolutely, positively guarantee to remove all spots." I go, wow, that's impressive. Then it says definitions. Spots come out, stains don't. No guarantee on stains. And so I thought, well, okay, I understand now what he's doing. When we talk about spots, you need to understand there's really three types of soil. There's those things that are water soluble, things that are going to be oily or dry solvent soluble, and those things that are insoluble. Mm-hmm. Perfect example is a soft drink. If you have a soft drink, what you have is a solution. It's a substance carried in a liquid. And let's say you accidentally spill it. Well, theoretically, if it was beating up on this desk, we could blot it up and there'd be nothing left behind because we removed it while it was in a solution. If you spilt that same drink on a carpet and left it, what do we know the water will do? It would evaporate. Well, what would not evaporate is the syrup. And so the syrup would add substance or texture, and we would actually have a spot. Okay? Now, let's take this one step farther. Let's say that instead of a soft drink, let's say that our child or a grandchild has some Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid is notorious because it has a red dye in it, much of it does if it's red, and it's the same type of dye that they might use to dye a nylon carpet. As long as that carpet has open dye sites, when it gets spilled, the carpet fiber doesn't know the difference. So cleaning-wise, it may not just clean out. So part of it may go in and actually become a permanent part of the fiber. and part of it may be superficial. So not only would it be a Kool-Aid spot, it would become a Kool-Aid stain. So removing the Kool-Aid spot, the sugar part is easy as long as I can use water.
Correct.
If I can't use water, then I can't remove it. And that's where it gets touchy on some pieces of fabric that are dry clean only. And just like your suits and this kind of stuff, if it's dry clean only, and you have anything that contained water, you're going to have a very difficult time removing it.
Hence the limitations, because we see these every day.
Right. And, that's the part that people don't understand. They think if they can't guarantee to remove everything, they're bad. It doesn't do you any good to remove it if you damage or change the color or texture or whatever it is you're working on. We've all seen the spot that somebody's worked on and got the spot out but fuzzed it up. It looks as worse or even worse than what they had before.
Right. Exactly. So it was as we sit there and we go into it and we say, okay, now after a loss, like
Right.
after a water or fire loss, let's talk about the effects of what that may have on carpet as it relates to warranties. Because I see in large loss claim handling and adjustment and things like that, I see a huge misconception. Huge misunderstanding, and I see, it's total loss, or it's this, or it's got to be out of here. So let's talk about a loss that of what can happen returning it to pre-loss condition. Because what effects does it have to return it to pre-loss condition?
Well, first of all, you raised several good points, so you may have to rein me in here.
I will, because
Okay.
I'm sure we could go on and on for about another 3 hours on this topic.
Right. Well, first of all, when I've trained groups of adjusters in the past, technically their job is to interpret the policy on behalf of the insurance company. And most of the policies, if I can break it down just simple for your audience, is they're going to agree to put it back in a pre-loss condition, using like kind of quality materials, paying usual and customary charges. So I will ask them, what is pre-loss condition? And they'll kind of look at me and they'll say, well, like it was before. And I say, well, what does that mean? Well, it looks like it did before. I said, really? Is that good enough? And the truth of the matter is, a lot of times it looks better when we're done than it did before, because a wall may be painted, a carpet may be cleaned.
Right.
The people are actually made more than whole in that way. But at the same time, since we both do water restoration, we also have to make sure the structure's dry. And the new thing going forward is with air sampling and things like that. Are we putting contaminants in the air? Have we really put them back into a pre-loss condition, or have we just simply improved the situation? Now, when you talk about warranties, if I can be very candid, and again, knowing your audience, I think we could all agree that most warranties are made to help make a sale. And most people that write a warranty write them with the hope that they never have to honor them. And so many of them have a variety of exclusions and things that would keep them from actually paying off on those things. So you mentioned what things would affect the warranty. It's going to really vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. Some might say, in any kind of water loss, the warranty is gone. But again, that warranty was made for different things. Like there's a warranty that covers wear. And everybody thinks the wear is abrasion and the carpet looks ugly. But that warranty means that you're not going to lose more than 10% of the total face weight of the carpet. I've been doing this, like I said, we're going to go on 45 years. And you could probably count on one hand any carpet that was replaced under that warranty, to my knowledge. There may be more. And those probably had a good reason why they got replaced, if you understand me.
Sure.
So the new warranties that they have, then they have no mat, no crush warranties. And if you read those warranties, you got to do certain types of maintenance on a certain frequency. And sometimes they require certain chemistry, certain equipment.
Sure.
There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through if you're chasing the warranty. Now, you mentioned the spot and stain warranties. This is, to me, it's kind of crazy, because I remember back when I had the privilege of working with one of the fiber producers when they introduced this back in '86. The warranty covers common household food and beverage spills, but then turns around and excludes it in traffic areas and on the steps. And at first you say, what in the world's going on? Where do most spills actually occur? Well, you got to understand that normal use, I would like to say everybody does the amount of maintenance in their home that they should. They vacuum your carpet several times a week, but we all know that isn't always the case.
I'm going to pause you though.
Okay.
I'm going to use that word rein you back in, because I think we're there as we get to the part about water or fire loss. As we talk about the spot and stain warranties, when we as restorers and contractors go into a loss and we get to these areas, and the kitchen has a dishwasher overflow, it has a sink, a category 1, category 2, category 3 loss, right? We get into a bathroom that has category 1, category 2, or category 3. As we start to look at some of these affected areas that flow through a structure, wherever it may be, all of these areas are in these common areas that are much to be excluded.
Right.
And so as this happens and this is affected and these structure materials are affected, if those warranties are affected, you hear a lot of homeowners or contractors advocating for homeowners, is that a coverage issue? Because I hear arguments both ways saying, yes, it should be replaced under the warranty, where it's already an exclusion. So is it really a violation? I hear so many times from some attorneys now saying, no, it's not. And so it's a huge, huge debate.
I've worked on both sides of this issue.
I have too. And that's why I said we want to hear from Joey Pickett.
Okay. I always tell people I'm the world's leading authority on one thing, my opinion, and I do share it freely. To answer your question, first of all, if we're talking about carpet, we're hopefully not running into carpet in the bathrooms. But if we did, it would be the same. Having dealt with numerous attorneys on this and working for fiber producers and stuff, one of the comments that was made is the manufacturer doesn't purchase an insurance policy that insures their warranty. It is a warranty that they provide, and they provide it only. And they write the terms and this sort of thing. Now, you have a loss, and the key is pre-loss condition. Now, the pre-loss condition is, what did it look like? Was it sanitary? Can you make it sanitary? How does it smell? How does it look? All of those things. And also, does the fire affect any of the treatments? And again, let's just assume you asked me category 1, category 2, category 3. So let's just do that.
Sure.
Category 1, for those that know, and I hope you're not offended, I like to keep things simple, is basically clean water, water that came from a supply line that is not contaminated.
Agree.
Okay. Chances are that water can be extracted after the carpet is properly dried. Then it would be cleaned, and if it needed to be deodorized or whatever, it could. A lot of times companies, as part of the drying, may have treated it with an antimicrobial. Now, that antimicrobial could have been a cationic material that would void the warranty on some stain-resistant nylon carpets. Not polyester, PET, acrylic, or olefin, but on a certain type of stain-resistant nylon carpet. Now, what does it do? It can affect the performance of the stain resistance, but there are products that can be made available aftermarket that can put the stain resistance back into it.
Sure.
And the key thing is we can give them back the performance, but we can't give them back a manufacturer's warranty that we're not a party to, that they wrote the rules on.
So in summary, as we look at going through to a water loss. Mm-hmm. Now, we know category 3 is what is often referred to in the industry as black water, right?
Yeah.
So if we all agree that black water, any of the porous materials is removed. So carpet's removed, pad is removed.
Trying to save that.
We're not. It's not even a question of debate.
Right.
So that's out. But let's talk about category 1 and 2. So as the carpet in an affected area, the category 2, pad's gone. We're going to agree. But let's talk about the carpet. So if we say that if the warranty is of an issue, if we can clean, dry, deodorize, and if the warranty comes into place, now the carpeting, as we know, sometimes you say it's a nice home and it flows through here into the hallway and it flows out into the living room and everywhere else, applying in a different stain resistance to that is much more cost effective.
Oh, absolutely.
That would actually return them potentially to a pre-loss condition.
Right.
And actually a newer application, correct?
Absolutely.
Which would almost like revitalize that carpet, unless this carpet was just bought, right? Then that is already degraded or worn down. And at this point here, it's going to be brand new, reapplied, and everything else.
Well, let me stop you.
Go ahead.
It's not going to be brand new in the fact it's not going to replace lost fibers.
Correct.
But that was normal wear and tear.
Correct.
But you brought up an excellent point.
As far as the stain resistance, I was saying,
Well,
yes.
I mentioned the scratches and the abrasion. The reason why the manufacturers want to exclude these high use areas is because it creates areas that have never been treated. And it's one of the reasons why we traditionally encourage our customers after any kind of cleaning normally to reapply a protector. And especially if it's a stain resistant carpet they're concerned about, there are even products that do have the acid dye blockers in them. So that's something that we can do. The biggest problem in many cases is what I call want to. Does the contractor want to save it? Does the homeowner want it saved? And,
Probably depends. Are they doing recon or aren't they doing recon, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Is it just a mitigation contract or are they doing the full gamut, right?
Right. There are different tiers of cleaning and restoration companies that have different levels of training and skill and all this kind of stuff. And, a lot of times, I'll be honest, we've had customers who are just absolutely amazed once we get in, we start a restoration project of what we can and can't do. And the thing is, we try to be honest up front about what their expectations should be and what we can offer them. Now, you did mention Category 2. Real quick, I want to make a little change in the procedures. Category 2 is water that does have a significant amount of contamination. It could be biological, it could even be chemical. If we were going to save that carpet, it would definitely need to be thoroughly cleaned. As part of the drying process, it's going to probably need to be treated with an antimicrobial. And then once it's dry, it may even need to be cleaned a second time. And this is one of the areas that sometimes that we butt heads with insurance companies is they only want to pay for it one time. Well, by going ahead and cleaning it twice, what you're doing the first time is you're really trying to remove those contaminants. Because a lot of people don't realize even some of the antimicrobial treatments are inactivated by organic matter. And so if we don't remove that organic matter, we're not going to have a very effective application of the antimicrobial. So it may actually require 2 cleanings and a treatment of antimicrobial, but now you have saved, like you said, it may go all the way through the house and match. It's a significant savings. And don't be confused. I have a lot of customers that don't necessarily want new carpet.
Sure.
Carpet may not be that old. It's the perfect color. It matches their furniture or their wallpaper.
Same here.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've probably shaken all of our listeners to no on end with that one, but we're going to shift gears a little bit because one of the things that's kind of pressing in this is, what would you say one of the biggest challenges in the industry right now that you're seeing? Because we're seeing a big thing up here is labor. How about you down in Kentucky?
That's everybody.
Yep.
And, we've been very lucky. We've kept the majority of our staff, but everybody's so short-handed. They're trying to poach people. They're offering crazy amounts of money to get people to come over. But, trying to maintain a good culture, being fair with your people, train them, that's helped a lot. But yeah, staffing has become a big issue. And as COVID goes on, one of the things I think you're going to see that we talked about is you're going to start seeing a lot of smaller companies closing their doors. It's kind of only the strong will survive kind of thing. And in some ways that's sad. Other ways it's good because those that have made the financial investment and weathered the storm, they're going to come out of this a whole lot stronger than they went into it.
Got it. So if and that kind of led into my next question that I was going to have for you is, what do you predict the future to be? So you think that through COVID, some of these smaller companies that can't weather it will maybe not be able to make it through this. Do you see any other predictions in the future?
Well, the smaller companies that want to survive, and that's the thing, back to that want to thing. Sure. Again, are probably going to have to do it through some diversification. Even in our business, my son was very proactive when we added our rug shop, and that's added a significant cash flow to the business. Hard surface cleaning. Years ago, my son came to me and asked to go to a hard surface school. And I said, why do you want to do that? He says, Dad, have you noticed that 1/3 of all of the carpets are disappearing? Most of your nicer homes have gone to hard surfaces on the main floor, with the exception of possibly the master bedroom suite. And so, we went that way and it's paid off great. We're seeing tons of luxury vinyl tile being installed. I think that's the new hot item.
Sure.
And so being able to clean multiple surfaces and offer multiple treatments is going to is going to be a big part of it.
Do you have any advice for any entrepreneurs that want to maybe take a different career path or get into this industry and say, hey, I want to get into carpet cleaning or something like that, or mitigation services? Do you have any advice as to what would you tell them as far as scaling or carpet versus mitigation ratio or anything else like that? What advice would you be for them?
Couple of things. First of all, I'm going to encourage them to find a good supplier when they start, because they'll be a huge asset. And one of the things they ought to look for too is one that does offer training courses and stuff so that they can learn their craft. The challenge that they're going to have is deciding what exactly they want to be. Now, you asked me about restoration and cleaning. I do some business coaching, as you know, and I have a lot of restoration companies that only want to do insurance work. If it's not part of a water or a fire claim, whatever, they don't want no part of it. They may have had happy customers and they call them and they want them to come back and do the carpets, the upholstery, the painting, whatever it is, and they want no part of it. To me, that's crazy. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that the restoration industry is definitely a feast or famine industry. You either got more work than you can handle, or you're trying to figure out, what are we going to do? We can only sweep the floor so many times, right?
That's correct.
Carpet cleaning and water restoration, for example, kind of work opposite each other. You know, when carpet cleaning is busy, water restoration tends to be slower. And in the winter, when pipes are breaking and things like that, carpet cleaning is a little slower. Now that the holidays are over, until we get into spring, they can really complement each other very well. Also in the winter, when the heat goes on, now we start seeing more fires. And so I would encourage anybody that wants to scale and grow their company to any significant size is you're going to have to be able to do multiple things. You know, in marketing, you know, the old thing is the bigger the market, the less you have to do. You know, you can pick one or two items and be successful in a huge market. But if you're in a smaller, more rural area, you're going to have to do more things to generate the revenue that you're looking to acquire.
And also to continue education. I mean, education is huge at our firm at Absolute. I mean, as I told you this week, one of my goals that we've done with our company is to have one of the highest trained set of staff to get as many master technicians, triple masters here than any other firm in the state of Michigan. So that's my goal for my crew, and we're going to push to do that here through the next 2 years. But you know, education is something to help broaden their horizons, to give them opportunities, because in essence, the more training and experience they have actually goes into the efficiency, in essence, the profitability for the actual organization. So, and then also another revenue stream for somebody maybe coming in, something that we do is we consult as well. I consult, testify as expert and things like that. So it's something that maybe somebody else could aspire to and get into something like that as well.
Well, one of the things that I'll add to that, even with the IICRC, are instructors that have been around a long time. We're aging out. We're starting to get towards the end of our careers. I hate to admit
Joey Pickett is not aging out anytime soon.
Well, you know, they joke sometimes we call ourselves dinosaurs. And we're always looking for younger people in the industry to step up. And the other thing, we're looking for people who are bilingual, because there are people that have English as not as a first language, but a second language, that we really struggle to find qualified instructors to help train them. So there's an opportunity in the industry for those people that are looking to follow that path, but they're going to have to work up through their certifications, because you have to be a master before you can become an instructor. So I want to congratulate you. I think that's an awesome goal.
Well, it is. It's a strong feat, but the thing is, I think we can do it. We've got a staff that I'm very confident that our staff can do it. So it's something that we were all energetic about, and something that I committed to them to do. So we're ready and charged to do that. So, but I wanted to thank you for joining us here today. You know, having you up here in Michigan is definitely a pleasure. You know, again, Joey Pickett is in the house. You know, up from Kentucky, one of the industry by far experts for upholstery and carpet, and I can't speak enough for this man. So it's, again, a pleasure to have you here, and we can't wait to have you back.
Thank you, David.
All right.
Look forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining 2 for Tuesdays. Remember, 2 bits of information at Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and we'll see you